Air Force?
Well, I don't know if they're actually calling it Air Force, we were just told we were going away to a better camp. You know, more food and better conditions.
There must have been something to look forward to.
It was really.
Yeah. So you get off the train at Ban Pong.
Ban Pong,
and
we went into a filthy camp there that was being occupied by Asiatics, because they had no control. Anywhere was a toilet as far as I was concerned. And we were there for a day and a half. I can't remember how long we were there, but it wasn't very long. And then they told us we had about a 300 kilometre walk, I think it was. And we set off one night, I think. We most of the time walked overnight. And I can remember on the 25th of April 1943 walking into Cambury. And that stage the Japs weren't too bad, and I think they were a bit tired too, because a couple of blokes had a little bit of money, and a couple of them hired rickshaws to take the last little bit into the camp. But there was no, Cambury in those days was like a little village on the edge of the jungle. And while we were there was an old lady, she'd draw water from the well for you, have a wash, and for 10 cents more she'd wash your back as well at this well.
Well, I hope that's all she could.
Go and have a wash up at the well. That was the only water there at that stage.
Oh. Now, did everyone have boots at the stage?
Everyone, I'd say, pretty well had boots at that stage. Yes. I think I had a spare pair with me that stage too. I'm a bit lucky, I acquired those.
Now, I know that at some stage you had close contact with Russell Braddon.
That was back after I arrived back in China.
Afterwards, and of course he was later with H Force, I think. Anyway,
I don't know if it was H or F Force. I couldn't remember, but I know
he wasn't Air Force.
Really, I know in Changi Jail. That's when he came in contact with Russell Braddon.
That's all right. But that was a bit of a distraction. I'm sorry for that question. So you walked over 2.5 weeks going north, and you were with what was the group called that you were with?
Pond's Party.
And who was your medical officer?
Roy Mills.
A wonderful man.
That's it. Right.
Now, you're up the line for. It's all right, John. I'll just hold it there for us.
When we first arrived, which part now we're on to?
Well, when you're up the line, I understand that you had a lot of movement.
Yeah. Well, when we first arrived there, we were at Concordia, I think, for a day, and then we moved on to Taimonta, which is not very far away. It might have been a couple of kilometres. And there we were moving to huts that didn't have any roof on them, because it was almost the start of the wet season then, and if it rained overnight we had to put your ground sheet over to keep dry. And that eventually we moved. I was looking at one of the fit ones all the time, and they sent about 300 of us to Niki up towards the Burma border. And we weren't there very long. Why they sent us there I wouldn't know, but the Burmese used to come through from Burma there with their bullet carts and swap over the bullet, get a fresh lot. And of course we were only there a few days. These bullets were edible. And we killed 23 in 9 days, bullocks. But you couldn't leave any bones around. We had to, the rivers run very fastly up there, and we had to throw the bones and anything we didn't want in the river, so it all washed away quickly. And that went on for 9 days. But as fast as you ate this bullet meat, it was tough as anything, went straight through you. Yes. And you're a bit like cats. You had a shovel and you race outside in the middle of the bush and dig a hole. Yeah. And that's how.
And you had rice?
Well, you had no latrine, you had rice, yes.
Yeah.
But these bullets, tough.
Now, with these, when you went to the camp and there was no ATAP on it.
Yeah.
Did you manage to get ATAP and
I think eventually
re-reef them?
Eventually they re-reefed them, but they weren't any good.
And did you establish cookhouses for the?
Oh, they established cookhouses, yes. Everywhere went they established a cookhouse.
And the Roy Mills's medical facility?
Yeah, that stage I had nothing to do with it. I was quite reasonably fit.
Yeah,
I had nothing to do with the medical at that stage.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any malaria or anything like that.
Yes.
But from there, the Nicky, we were only there about 9 days, I think, and got the funny part of it was when the Japs discovered what was going on with these bullets, the Jap ran through the camp and he's going, look at
Big message.
And Cappy was in charge of that camp. I'll give Cappy his due there. The Japs want to know who was responsible, and Cappy didn't own up that. And we moved Camp 14, that was the end of it.
Yes.
From there we went back, bits and pieces, back to Tarumpet.
Yes.
Where one stage there I got, I was saying I was a temperature of 105.
Yeah. I don't know why you weren't dead.
As there were a lot of fellows who were sick there, and I never wanted to stay anywhere there was a sick one. I wanted to keep moving with the bulk. So I went to the down. It could have been George Beeson for all I know. Come back in the morning. I knew we were moving in the morning, so I didn't go back in the morning. I marched on with them, carrying them back. I recovered from then up to a point, I suppose, then.
How much gear were you carrying at this stage?
Very little.
Yeah. Did you still have your second pair of boots?
Oh, I probably wouldn't have had. I could have had them at that stage. I can't remember that. But,
George was telling me that his one pair of boots lasted in the whole distance, but I guess because he was in the RAP, he wouldn't have been going up the line and back and that sort of thing.
We were walking, we were in mud most of the time.
He also said his boots were very, very good.
Yeah. Incidentally, I won't go back to that. And then when we first moved to this Nicky, and when we killed the bullocks, we had an officer there that was marching alongside, he Lieutenant Pommy, it was in signal with a pong, walking along with the cane under his arm, and he came over and these bullocks were, when we went to Nicky, we had to pull bullocks along in bullock carts. And the purpose of the bullocks, sir, they weren't pulling, they just held up the shafts of the cart, that was all they did, you just pull them along. Every now and then they'd fall over. And they'd prod them with sharp sticks to make them get up. The only thing I didn't think about was that I lit a fire in them, the fire was so bad. So I remember this Pommy officer came over, Australian officer, and he got in front of this bullock and he was poking the bullock in the face with a stick. And I said, for Christ's sake, hit the fucking thing, I'll get the fucking out of it.
You didn't. I can't imagine you ever saying anything like that.
Well, the way you felt there, you know, dreadful it was, we were mud up your knees and trying to pull these things along that wouldn't move. Yeah. And
he wasn't going to achieve anything that way,
no, mate, I said he wasn't going to think to go forward that way.
Yeah. Now, on one occasion you did me the service, or did me a favour, and you estimated the distance that Roy Mills walked during the period, the 10 months or so that you're up the line. Can you tell us, and already you've covered part of it by saying that you were moving camps all the time.
We moved, Roy would have most times would have been up and down the line and tried to see how they were going, whereas we'd moved, say, from Taimonta to Nicky. Roy would have up and down a couple of times to see how everyone was getting on. And then when we moved down, we went to Tarumpet, I think it was. That was like a little place, there were a few houses there, it's unusual, this place Tarumpet. And he would have up and down, he was always on the move to see how anyone was going, you know. And then from there we went on to Nicky, not Nicky, to Tarkanoon, and we stayed there for 5 months. And when we were at Tarkanoon, they moved there again. They moved some of the fit ones up to a camp about 3 or 4 kilometres on. Roy Mills used to come up every second day to see how everyone was going, walk up and walk back again.
Yes.
That was where I had Wild's disease there.
Yes. Now, were there any other people diagnosed with that?
The only other one that I know had Wild's disease,